Great.
Hello teachers, how are you? In this video, we are going to present the final version of our research project that is entitled Comparing ES Learners' Perceptions and Experiences Regarding English Learning During and After the Emergency of COVID-19. As we know, the pandemic affected everyone around the world, and especially education, where educational centers had to close down and receive the classes through virtual environments. Therefore, the need to carry out this study to discover the effects of online learning on the academic performance of students, specifically EFL students.
Okay, continue. These are the reasons our research questions. Continues. Moreover, concerning the methodology, we choose a qualitative inquiry, and we focus on a comparative case study.
And we choose the inductive analysis. Yes, and we follow these 9 steps that are here in the slides. We read, we reviewed the data, we codify, read again, find categories, and read and connect the data according to their similarities and differences. Then the instruments that we adopted were observations, 4 observations, 1 questionnaire, and 9 interviews.
The process that we took into account for our project is this. First of all, we have to read a lot. Secondly, we identified codes, descriptive codes. We identify those codes with the frequency. Then we reread all the information that we took from the instruments, and finally we codify all the codes.
And this is the research timetable that we follow through the semester to develop this study. Now, concerning the first question, that is, how did English learners perceive the learning of speaking skills in English and the role of the teacher in classes during COVID-19? We have the first category, that is the causes and consequences of the weak development of speaking skills. Here we found 2 causes and 2 consequences. The first one is the lack of autonomy to speak in English. Students stated they did not have the autonomy to practice English orally by themselves. Then they use the ICT tools as facilitator during oral tasks. For example, they use the translator and scripts. The second cause and the consequence was difficulties in the speaking skills. They did not have like the resources or the space to practice English in the classroom. Then they develop bad feelings they felt anxious and shy and scared when speaking in English. Here we have a pie chart from the responses of the questionnaire, where students stated that they did not feel motivated to speak in English during virtual classes. Well, now regarding the role of the teacher during COVID-19, we found 2 categories. The first one is the productive teacher behavior. Students consider that the teacher was a guide. He was like explaining the topics, and therefore he was also a source of information. He gave them further information to study more the topics by themselves. Also, the teacher was an innovator because he was more practical and adopted new tools to make the class better, and he adopted a flexible attitude according to students' needs. And all of that made the teacher a motivator. So the attitude of the teacher encouraged students to be attentive during the class. But not all the students perceive the same. Some of them perceive the attitude of the teacher as negative, and they stated that the teacher lacked social skills and he did not communicate accurately, and sometimes he was irresponsible, but because he did not prepare the classes, and because of that the classes were boring, were pointless, and all of that demotivated the students to enter the class.
Okay, now this is the second sub-question, that is, what are the experiences of English learning regarding the interaction with peers in classes during and after the COVID-19? In this part, we have the positive and negative experiences. Among the positive experiences of peer interaction during virtual classes, the participants stated that it was easy to contact people through messages, and they found new strategies to divide their responsibilities in group works. However, among the negative experiences, they did not have enough spaces to interact. Students were irresponsible, and only some of them did the work, and the other never responded the messages. Now, in the experiences in peer interaction after the pandemic of COVID-19, first, we have the favorable ones, like being in the same classroom, people have direct contact and not need to the media to communicate with their peers. Whereas, among the bad experiences, students felt uncomfortable with the reckless feedback of some classmates that made them feel bad when speaking in English.
And finally, the last question was, how did English learners' perceptions change toward the learnings of speaking skills and the role of the teacher in the post-pandemic period? First, we have the category that is called advantages for oral exchanges. Students consider that they have more opportunities for oral production activities in the classroom. So it means that they can interact more in English with their peers and with the teacher, and also the body language, the nonverbal expressions facilitate communication. The other one is the positive development of speaking skills. As students have direct contact and they are in the classroom, they have to speak spontaneously. Yes, so they learn to speak naturally in English. And when they use the real knowledge of English, they receive an accurate feedback, and they receive also immediate correction of the speech. And all of that experience help them gain more self-confidence when speaking in English. And the last one about regarding the role of the teacher. We have the constructed teacher behavior. The teacher was a guy. He explained everything. He is also a source of information that gave extra material to study further the topics. He is responsible. He plans his classes. He is prepared. His classes are more dynamic, yes, and more fun. He is attentive. He pays attention to what the students need, and all of that motivate the students. So the teacher is a motivator. Now, in the discussion, we have some comparison tables, and with these tables, we can answer the main question, that is, what are the experiences and perceptions of English learners at a public university regarding the learning of English speaking skills, the interaction with peers, and the role of the teacher in classes during and after the pandemic. So the first one is comparison table of students' perceptions regarding the development of speaking skills during and after the pandemic of COVID-19. We can see here that in virtual classes, students use ICT tools to facilitate their oral exchanges. Yes, why in face-to-face classes they have to speak naturally. The second one is the bad feelings they had in virtual classes when they have to speak in English, like feeling anxious, scared, and shyness. And right now, as they have to really use their knowledge in English, they are gaining more self-confidence. The third one is the difficulties that they faced to speak in English. They did not have spaces, enough spaces in the class or outside the class to interact in English, while in face-to-face classes, the direct contact enhance the interaction in English among students and with the teacher. And the last one was the lack of autonomy that the students had to practice English by themselves. While in face-to-face classes, they have more opportunities for oral production activities. Now, regarding the peer interaction, in virtual classes, they did not have spaces to interact among the classmates. Yes, but in face-to-face classes, the direct contact promotes the interaction among students and also with the teacher. The second one in virtual classes was difficulties to work in groups. Yes, but in face-to-face classes, it's easier to divide the tasks and to have more strategies to plan and complete the activities. The third one was that in virtual classes, it was easy to contact people, yes, but sometimes they did not answer. While being in the classroom, students don't need to wait for a reply. They can speak immediately. And the last one was students found, thankfully, they found like new strategies to work in groups in virtual classes. And in face-to-face classes, they can work easier. So they have created cooperative learning. They correct themselves, study together, and complement their learning.
Continue with the role of the teacher. We have some aspects. The first one is irresponsible teacher. In virtual classes, the teacher was irresponsible according with the statement that the participant gave us. While in the face-to-face classes, the teacher prepared his classes or her classes, and the class is more dynamic for the students and for the teacher. The second one is the teacher as a guide, because in virtual classes, the teacher gave the information and all the material that the students need for the class, while in face-to-face classes, the teacher guide the students in the activities. He helped them to carry out all the material, all the information that they have in the class. Continue, we have the teacher as a source of information. Since in virtual classes, the teacher explained all the topics, he was always talking and talking, and the students just listen what the teacher says. While in face-to-face classes, the teacher gave the information, but with the interaction with the students have a participant role. Continue, we have the monotonous teacher, since in virtual classes, the teacher have not the information or the knowledge about the ICT tools, so the teacher was monotonous in all the class. While on the other hand, the face-to-face classes, the teacher prepare more activities to do during the class, to have a better comprehension of the topics, of the material, and the students can better understand all the information. We continue with the flexible attitude of the teacher, since in virtual classes, the teacher paid attention to the students' needs, while in face-to-face classes, the teacher is attentive due to the fact that the teacher paid attention to the students' needs and wishes that they want in the classes or in the semester. Finally, we have the motivated teacher, since in virtual classes, teacher did not motivate the students to prepare or participate in class. And in face-to-face classes, the teacher motivated students to continue with the learning process, with the activities that he prepared in class. And yes.
Correct. Yes, and finally, when comparing EF learners' perceptions about the development of speaking skills during and after the pandemic, we can see that during the virtual classes, they faced many problems, many challenges to develop this skill, and it also led them to have bad emotions toward speaking skill, towards speaking activities. While in face-to-face classes, this has improved, their speaking skills has improved, and they have more spaces to interact and use the language in a real context. And regarding the perceptions of about the role of the teacher, the role of the teacher is a bit similar in virtual and face-to-face classes. He was mainly seen as a guy, as a source of information, and he was also attentive to students' needs. However, sometimes during the pandemic, he was a bit irresponsible and a bit boring. But in face-to-face classes, his classes became more dynamic, and he is more responsible.
Besides, learners' experiences in peer interaction during and after the pandemic of COVID-19 were different. For instance, messages made it easy to contact classmates during online classes, but people ignored them. So they could not interact nor work together to complete their homeworks, which means that some people did the work of the other member of the group. Whereas in-person courses offers more spaces to carry out oral activities in groups, where students are independent of the media and can interact immediately. Like this, all the people in the group work together and complete and complement the learning process of each other.
And these are the nexus. These are like the process that we follow during the collection data, during the data collection process. And that's it. Thank you so much for your attention. Bye
Thank you so
bye.
much.